Everybody, you've by now you've got your marks and your feedback. I'm sorry about the. I'm sorry by the way about the there was only a couple, but a couple of you didn't get your MCQ results. I think I've put that right by now. So sorry about that. I don't know why that happens really. Well, I missed it out. Listen. A couple of you have been in touch to say, do you mind if I come in even though I've got a decent mark to find out, about my essay. Feel free to do that, by the way. It's part of the after service. Come on in and I'll tell you how to improve your essay, even if you got a decent mark. Don't think you're coming in to permanently say, what went wrong. What went right is just as important. So what I want to talk about here now is the multi-choice question, right? The multi-choice. I can't give you the papers back with your answers on, and because I need to use these questions again. But what I can certainly do is to reply in general to your work in general. Okay. Now the first thing I want to say about the multi-choice question is that nobody failed. Right? There were a couple that were a bit close. Now, if you think about it, even if you closed your eyes and you just put a pen in the paper, it's not so much with a multi-choice question. You don't have to know the answer. You just have to recognise it. That's a different matter, And if you just put a pin on the paper, you would get, a quarter of them right, wouldn't you? And if there's 24, there'd be 8 that you'd get right just by chance, So you've got to get 10 to pass. So if you're around about the 40 mark or the 42 mark or something like that, you're just above what you would get if you were guessing. That cannot be a good thing. It cannot be a comfortable position to be in. So if you got a mark down by the 40s, you should really think about boning up on some of this stuff because, that's close to the edge. By chance, you're just above dip. Most of you didn't go anywhere near the 40s. Most of you were considerably better than that. And I know what goes on in MCQs as well. You get to 2 answers and they look a bit similar and you don't quite know. And as soon as you go out the room and people start talking about the exam, then you get your confidence ruined because, oh my word, how did I make that mistake? But there you are. So what I want to talk about is the sort of questions thing. You got to imagine how it is for me now, right? You got to imagine how it is for me. That it's like doing a lottery. As you're marking it, some person will get the full page, first page, and they'll all be correct. Or this is going to be a clear round. This one, second page, all correct. Third page, 1, 2, 3. No, someone's fallen. Nobody got 100%. Nobody got 100%. The highest I think was about 92%. So all that in mind, let's start off with some of the questions. Number 1, I was really impressed. How many of you got the ECG of AF right? Yeah, loads. And most people, there weren't many things that came up again and again. I'll talk about the things that came up again and again, but mostly the questions that people got wrong were kind of scattered through the whole test. So you couldn't say here is a tendency among you all not to get this right. There were a couple though. There were a couple of questions that, as a tendency, as a whole group, you tended to have a problem with. Number 1, and this one really shocked me, by the way. Number 1, if a person cannot speak, what's it called? Now, the correct answer to that is aphasia. Now, that seems perfectly obvious to me because without has as a prefix a. Yeah? If you think about anorexia, no appetite. If you think about anuria, you've got no urine output, you know. So no ability to speak, aphasia. What you all went for, or what there was a tendency for you to go for, was a relatively low number, really. And some of them I thought, you've gone dip, dip, dip on this, you don't know. The ones that, the commonest one that you all went for was dysphagia. Now, dysphagia, number one, D-Y-S, means difficulty, right? Difficulty passing water, dysuria. D-Y-S means difficulty with. And P-A-G, phagia, think esophagus, you know? So it's difficulty, that's difficulty swallowing. Dysphagia is difficulty swallowing. Aphasia is no speech. You've lost the power of speech. If it was difficulty speaking, it would be dysphasia. That one baffled me. You know, people who nearly had a clear arm were making that mistake. Another one that people commonly got wrong was urine output drops with hypotension. If your kidneys are not being perfused to the right pressure, then the tendency will be for your urine output to drop. Frankly, I think a few of you, as a group, I should say, have a look at your cardiac anatomy again. Superior vena cava sits, right answer to that is just outside the right atrium. Yeah, just outside the right atrium. A central venous line sits in the superior vena cava, just outside the right atrium. Yeah, not in the pulmonary vein, which is on the other side of the heart, isn't it? It's on the other side of the whole system. How did you get that right? A couple made that mistake. Again, my guess is dip, dip, dip. You know, where do the coronary arteries arise from? The right atrium. And I think what this indicates is a requirement to get down with the anatomy books and just have a little look through again. Acute tubular necrosis. That's right. What causes acute tubular necrosis? Acute tubular necrosis is renal damage that's caused, by and large, by hypotension. Yeah, not nephrotoxic drugs. Nephrotoxic drugs came up again and again and again. The thing that made me laugh about this was in a lot of these questions. I put stuff in, just to sort of bar my answer, you know, and made something up off the top of my head. It's amazing how many people went for them. You know, an ECG measures electrical activity, mechanical activity, serum transfer. What does that even mean? A couple of people went for it. Ah well, we've all been there in exams, don't worry. Now then, turning to the essay, right? Turning to the essay. Again, nobody failed, right? That's the good news. That's the good headline news. Nobody failed the exam, the essay. So well done for that. There was a number came close to it, you know, and there were a number who I would have had no difficulty really failing. With the internal or external moderation process, and they've only gone to moderation, yeah. They've only gone to an external examination moderation, so that I might still get told that I've made a big mistake with this group and these people ought to fail. There is that. All the results are provisional. But again, as a group, what did I like? Right. Well, as a group, you definitely got the right idea about the module, right? systematic assessment. Don't be fazed by the alarming nature of the illness or the alarming, devastating situation, personal situation that a person's entered the hospital with. Keep it disciplined. Has this person got an airway? Has this person got the power to breathe? What is their circulation telling you? Now, within that, people went into all different levels and different sort of depths, yeah? But by and large, no, universally, everybody conveyed this idea that they'd taken on them point that there was a discipline to this, and that you started with the basic stuffs and you didn't move on until you'd sorted the basic stuff out, and then you came back to it again and again. So well done for all of that. You well got the entire point of the module. The other thing is that I liked is that, and this is clearly a skill that you've picked up while you've been on the course right the way through. But there was always one eye kept on the learning outcomes, and that's, well done, good discipline. I mean, again, to some extent more than others. There were a couple of people who just kind of nodded in the direction of the learning outcomes without really in any depth, and they were punished. They were punished for it. But there were very gratifying things where just keeping an eye on the learning outcomes is what you've learnt off every other teacher. But there were very gratifying things that I could see that you'd been listening to me personally, yeah, and that is there was a complete lack. Not a complete lack. There were one or two people went over the top a little bit, but there was a general tendency in the group not to be using big long sentences. Really, so in that respect, well written. There was no 40, 60 word sentences knocking around. Good, keep it up. And the other thing is that by and large, some more than others, but by and large, I could see the patience. I got a strong sense that you weren't just regarding this as a technical subject, and that you were taking account of the fact that this was a disaster. That the family were all ringing each other at home about poor old Jack who's in hospital, blah blah blah. I mean, sometimes you could detect the. I think I said in one person said that a pensioner, that Mrs. Jones was a pensioner, and she'd been brought in with something or other. And I think I said in the feedback that it's not really politically correct to define a person by the benefits that they're on. But this was an exception. And it wasn't a heartless thing. This was not a heartless thing. This was a rather nice one, I think. Right, what didn't I like? Now then, that's a whole other story. What didn't I like in general? Number one, here is a tip for the future. Do you know in an essay, an academic degree level essay, do not use the present tense. It's a trap, right? So, this essay will look at myocardial infarction, and to do this, I will take a case-based approach. Jim, 46, enters A&E. He goes to the desk. He says he's got chest pain. It doesn't sound proper. It sounds like you're writing a story. This is an essay. It's not a story. And people were drifting. Present tense, past tense, present tense, past tense. It does not say academic article. You will not find this in any kind of work that you read in a journal. But here's the big one. Here is the big one. And I thought I'd mocked you. I thought I'd mocked you on this subject before the start of the module, and while I was speaking, I thought I had covered this practice with intense mockery, but clearly not. Do not, under any circumstances, use patient information leaflets as reference material. How would you like it if you went to the doctor and you asked the doctor to explain your condition, and he picked up a Bupa patient's information leaflet to explain it to you, that's no good. What you need is proper peer-reviewed academic journal articles. That's what you should be using, right? Not crazy websites. That shocked me, to be honest with you. That one really did shock me. You may as well have just put in the reference list, first thing I found on the internet.com. You can't be using that sort of stuff. If this is the end of your academic career and you never want to see another course in your life, fair enough. Who cares? Don't listen. But if you're planning to take your studies any further, don't be using patient choices. Don't be using Bupa. Don't be using... They're not the worst. They're not the worst type of... People were using hospital information about your blood tests. No good. Anyway. 3 years worth of studying, still making mistakes with in-text references. What? British Medical Journal as a reference in text? What? What sort of reference is that? Your in-text mostly fine, but all I'm saying is general tendencies. But the in-text references on some are just bizarre. How have you got this far now? We're doing that. Don't you get told off about this all the time? And lastly, here's a tip again for those of you who wish to take up an academic career. Don't use abbreviations. People used to write abbreviations when they had to physically write with a pen. Yeah, because it's heavy duty on your hand to be writing with a pen. Yeah, but what's to stop you putting in AED in the text? Yeah, and then when you finish the essay, go back up to find and replace. Put in the find AED and replace it with accident and emergency department. Click and it'll take you through all of the instances of AED, and you can change it with the flick of a switch. Why would you not do that? But I've just been told off. The reason why this is a live issue for me is I've just been told off by an external examiner for not commenting on this. You know, you allow the students to make far too many abbreviations in their essays. Not for you, for a different course. So I'm just sensitive on the issue now. But it gets on my nerves too, rather. It gets on my nerves because it's kind of a shortcut, you know. And in this day and age, with find and replace, I don't really see why it's necessary. But sometimes I get the impression that people think that if they talk in abbreviations, that in some way it's kind of classier. Okay, that's all I intend to say. So I was going to come in and see you all in class, but you're not back in for such a long time. I thought you'll forget who I am by the time you see it. So well done, everyone. Well done. Best of luck for this coming academic year. And, you know, if when you're applying for jobs, you want a reference, I know you've got to go through channels with your personal tutor and all the rest of it, but, you know, I'm a resource. So, well done, everyone, yet again, and I'll see you when you're on a CPD course, eh?